And the 10th house is the house of business and career, as distinct from the job. The 11th house is the house of friends and other people's children, club activities, group social functions. And the 12th house is the house where we get it all together of what we've learnt from these other 11 houses. And we introspect and reflect and bring about changes within ourselves and work towards spiritual understanding. And if we can't do that through the process of introspection and reflection and the beauty and the wonder of solitude, then we do so through crisis and through struggle and pain and hospitalisation and internment and so forth. So this is where astrology is applicable to you. Now you've got these planets placed in their various houses of the horoscope and in the various signs of the horoscope, and they form relationships with the other planets that are in your horoscope at the time that you took your first breath. Sometimes these planetary relationships are beneficial and sometimes they're malefic. Now, this is determined not by chance. Oh, I've taken my first breath when the planets were in bad aspect with each other, and so therefore that's going to mean that I'm afflicted in this incarnation in certain areas of my life. That's not the way that it works at all. You come into incarnation at the exact moment when the planets are going to be in the right configuration for you to be able to learn the lessons that you have set for yourself. God doesn't assign karma and say that you've got to have this experience because you did this in a previous life, or you've got to have that experience because you were naughty in this area of your life or whatever. You are the one that chooses in the in-between life state what lessons that you're going to learn in this next life that you're planning. And you plan on who your parents are going to be, you plan on what aspects that there's going to be between the planets, and you plan on what you want to learn from the different houses of your horoscope, what sort of events and conditions that you want to experience, so that you can develop the faculties and the qualities of the soul within yourself. And so you plan when you're going to take your first breath. So the planets are all going to be in the right configuration for what you have planned to achieve and what function that you want all of those planets to fulfill in the upcoming incarnation. So nobody imposes karma upon you. In between lives, you have a higher state of consciousness. So you're able to perceive things from a position where we're not limited by the physical body and the emotional body. We're functioning and operating as a soul in this in-between lives situation, and so therefore we have a massive state of consciousness whereby we can sit down with our higher self and our soul and plan out what we want to achieve in our conscious mind. So it's very complex, I know, but anyway, these relationships between the planets can be conjunctions, and they can be positive or negative. They can be 60 degrees of separation, which is called a sextile, and that's always positive. That means that you're in the process of developing certain qualities that are inherent within those two planets that are forming the sextile. A square is 90 degrees of separation, and there's an allowance of an orb, what's called an orb, either side of the perfect 90 degrees of separation, and it's generally around about 6 degrees or 4 degrees for the sextile. So if you've got squares between your planets, it means that you've allowed yourself to express yourself negatively through the function of those planets in previous lifetimes, and so in this lifetime you've set yourself up with some difficult testing situations that will help you to overcome those negativities. And then there's trines, 120 degrees, and that represents aspects of your personality and qualities and attributes and values and principles that you've developed that are in the likeness of the soul, that you've already developed from past lives. So they will be areas of ease as far as this lifetime is concerned. And then we've got what's called the cycles of the horoscope. Now the cycles are brought about by the movement of the planets in the heavens. After you've taken your first breath, they continue to move around the zodiac. So they continue to move around the sun in their orbit, and as they move around the zodiac, they form relationships with your natal planets. So you've got this picture of the planets at the time of your birth, which are then transposed into the 12 houses of your horoscope and the 12 signs of your horoscope. But the planets continue to move after that. So let's say, for example, when you're 25 years of age, the sun progresses to a conjunction with Venus, which is the planet of love, and the sun is the planet of masculinity. Then that can be the timing of a marriage for you. And you might have a conjunction between the sun and Venus. You might have a square at 30 years of age between Saturn and Mars in your horoscope. So you might have some accident or some fall, depending on which house that these planets are sitting in. So it's a very complex science, and what I'm going to do for you, this is just the basics of astrology, is the signs, the planets, the houses, the aspects, and the cycles. I just wanted to cover these basics for you in this particular video, and to also commence with lifting you into a higher perception of things, so that you understand, why does it all work? What's the purpose of it all? Forget about what science says. Science won't let design into the universe, and they therefore won't allow a designer. They don't want anything to do with a designer. And so therefore they limit themselves. Science is supposed to be a search for truth, and yet they can't accept that there's design in the universe, when design is so evident even in the functionality of our body. I mean, are you down there in your liver working out how to preserve your body and your cells and replenish the damaged ones? Are you down there in the heart working in the circulatory side of things to determine how the blood is oxygenated in the lungs and travels throughout the body? No, that's all done on unconscious levels. But there's intelligence behind the whole scheme of things, and they deny that intelligence. They deny that design. So anyway, this is just a little bit about the basics of astrology and how it all functions in your life. And what I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to do a separate video on the signs and how they function, and then I'll do another video on the planets and how they function, and then I'll do another video on the houses, and then I'll do another video on the aspects, and I'll do a final video on the cycles. And that will cover the basics of astrology in more depth for you, to help you to become more of who you really are. You have lived many, many lifetimes, and you've got a future which is incredible. And higher states of consciousness beyond the human level are massive there in the universe. They proliferate. The human level of consciousness is the first level of self-consciousness. So science has to start becoming a little bit more humble, and to realise that there is design in the universe. It's evident everywhere. It's evident in the mineral kingdom, it's evident in the plant kingdom, it's evident in the animal kingdom, and it's evident in the human kingdom. And it's evident in the universe with the harmony and the complexity of it all. So it's nice to have this opportunity to talk with you about the basics of the science of astrology, and you can have your horoscope done by me free of charge so that you can learn where all these planets are in your horoscope and what relationship that they form with each other and what your sole purpose is in this life, and whether you've been naughty in past lives or whether you've got qualities and principles and values well developed from past lives. And you can enroll in my intensives in time, and there's a tremendous amount there to learn, the knowing of which will change everything. So there's something about life and about God that you don't know, the knowing of which will change everything. God and Goddess love you, and they know your name. Now, submit your birth details through Your Horoscope page. I'll do your horoscope for you free of charge, and let's have some fun together as you become more of the giant that you truly are. Thank you.